Hello, everyone. Today's guest is an author, a founder, a professor, a mom, Stela Lupushor. Stella, thank you so much for saying yes to this conversation.
Thrilled to be here and wonderful to speak with both of you.
Stella, we met only a couple of months ago, and I was just fascinated by your experience. You've been in big corporations, you're a founder, you've started your own company, you're a professor, you're a mom. So I feel like you have seen it all. You bring such a interesting perspective to, the world of work. And to the moment that we're experiencing. So Leo and I were very excited to have this conversation with you.
Always great to speak to other women who care about technology, but also uplifting other women's. And that's been a big part of my mission and life.
Thank you so much, Stella. How do you wake up one morning and say, actually, I'm going to leave my corporate job and I'm going to be doing this? What was the move like? And can you just tell us more about your background?
At the high level, I come from a math and computer science background. So it had at its core some of these technical fundamentals, and most of my career was in technical consulting. So programming, ERP implementations. I was never trained as an HR professional. I ended up in HR by chance. It was one of those like, oh, we're going to implement SAP, and you can go learn SAP HR. So I learned both SAP and HR at the same time, and
Sure.
I never look back because to me, I found the place where I can relate to what I'm doing, and I can see the impact, and I can bring empathy. And throughout the uh, rest of my career, it was always at the intersection of technology, analytics, and human resources, and more with the lens of bringing that empathy, bringing that human centricity. So the 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 technology and the quantitative mindset doesn't have to come without the humanity, and that's the work, my life's work. So as far as the pivot, it was a classic um, uh, burnout story, and your listeners are probably gonna relate, and it's okay to speak about that, and it's okay to experience that. But a lot, I think, culminated in multiple things, both at the personal and professional level. You realize where your your passion and your interest and your talent doesn't see destination inside the corporate environment, because you realize you will be working against yourself,
Mm.
because the corporate incentive structures, the way um, the mission and the values become misaligned, like all of those are signals that you need to pay attention and say, when is the right time to say there is a bigger life out there, that if I don't try it now, I will regret it. And that's exactly what I did. I jumped. And the funny part is, you're always unsure until you make the decision. And once you make the decision, everything falls into place. The right people come across, the right conversations happen, the right projects show up. Um, and then the rest is history. So that's exactly what happened. I started. I put the shingle up because that's what I feel I do all the time. I reframe. I help people to see the world of technology and analytics through a different lens, and the opportunity to help NYU to build the curriculum for the Human Capital Analytics and Technology program, master's program, showed up. So I ended up uh, then teaching in the program itself. The startups and VC funds, they were always part of my conversation, because a lot of these startups were trying to sell to me when I
Mm.
was in the role of running people analytics functions. So they continued to come to me for advice and support. So I ended up having this rich portfolio that is feeding into each other, right? What I do, the consulting work, I understand on the ground level what's happening and how the clients approach the problem solving, then I can use that to inform the advisory work with startups that I can then use it to teach at NYU my students and next generation of HR leaders, because they'll be facing the same type of problem. So it's all reinforcing and supporting each other. But to me, there's no other way to do it. This is perfection.
Oh, Stella, like, your story is so inspiring, and we could record another episode on burnout, pivots, and jumps, because I do feel like that resonates for certainly for me, and for many in our audience. So, would love to continue that conversation because there's so much to
Sounds
discuss.
good.
And I love that what you're saying, how you have experience in consulting, HR, this exposure to VCs, being in the classroom, and how you've been able to make sense of all of that and actually feed, from what you're learning in the classroom, bring that to your clients and vice versa. I think that's just a fascinating thing that I think it's very unique. Um,
Yeah.
so
It makes it very difficult to explain your parents what you do for a living, though. So
that is true. Um, Stella, there's I'm sure a lot of things that you can share with us about all of those experiences, and please feel free to share um, anything from any of the roles that you have. Leo and I were very interested in hearing from you. Um, what are the problems that are you're solving with AI? I mean, you're at the university, with your students, you are running your own company. You have your feet in different places that give you a different perspective on the challenges that people are facing, and of course, you are, I'm assuming,
and,
approaching your use of AI differently
uh,
depending on where you are. So, would love to hear from you on what problems are you're solving.
AI, I think it's a fascinating new general purpose technology. Maybe not new. So if you think of general purpose technologies that historically transformed the labor market, transformed industries, sectors, created new jobs, destroyed a bunch of older ones, starting from mechanical loom to electricity to internet and similar type of technologies. I think AI is in a very similar position, situated to transform a lot around us, what we do, how we create value, how we work, um, what is considered work, who is considered workers. So for me, a lot of those questions drives my both personal and professional interest around AI. So as a solopreneur, I feel so empowered because now I have a team of 12 for which I'm paying only for two of my digital workers. Everybody else is free, freelancing. But it is a way for me to amplify my ability to create value for me and for my clients. And it is a incredible support, but also I lean in heavier than I would have preferred to, because to me, this is the way I'm learning. I do, and I notice and I compare and contrast between different models. And I always try to stay on top of the new evolution in the industry because that shapes what I can teach my students, what I can advise my customers. When I talk to the customers, a lot of the work um, around transformation is it's kind of greenfield. It's early stages of technology evolution, of this technology specifically. A lot of unknowns. We do not necessarily understand how we can transform, and the possibilities are limitless, right? Beyond just personal productivity and getting your email drafts created faster, I think there's a lot of opportunity for automation, for creating very new workflows, for enhancing the ability to learn new things. There's tremendous amount of work redesign that we're just barely at the beginning of that transition to the emerging future. And then from education perspective, higher ed has a lot to tap into, but also huge amount of transformation that needs to undergo in light of AI, because the premise of memorizing or learning concepts, um, and then writing a paper on it, and then um, you know, doing some number crunching, all of that has to be reimagined. The students will inevitably use AI to create faster white papers or whatever write-up you're asking them to do, without necessarily spending the time to either absorb the knowledge or go into depth in certain questions. So it is incumbent upon us in teaching positions to reimagine the curriculum, to reimagine the learning experience, to reimagine um, this skills emphasis on more judgment and ability to uh, uh, utilize these technologies in a more effective way in order to both build your knowledge but build the skills that the organization expect. So that was a long way to answer your question, but I'll pause here for further deep down.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear, you're in the classroom and you're hearing about the challenges that your students are facing. You are learning yourself, right? Then you have your kids who are also in that journey. Like, is there anything there that you found surprising or that has helped you in your own learning?
Let's start with how it started. It was early ChatGPT stage, and everybody was writing about it and ringing alarm bells on what a powerful technology this is and how important it is to set guardrails, and we don't have the answers. And but I realized that a lot of that hype was written by people who may not necessarily have had firsthand experience, right? They would read something and then they would react to it and then they will write about it, and um, it was one day when my son, who is literally last week turned 25, came to me and sat me down and says, "Mom, you're gonna create your account and you're gonna play with it and you're gonna figure it out yourself." And the reframe for me was how easy it is to use this technology, number one, and how it is easy to use it to learn. Because if you have questions, you don't have to go ask. I don't have to go ask my son or whoever is at the Geek Squad location that day. I can just ask the AI, and it's very self-empowering and ability. It gives you the ability to go down the rabbit holes that otherwise you would need experts. So that was the first kind of aha moment. Like, wow, this is very democratizing because it gives you access very quickly to knowledge base that otherwise you wouldn't have at a speed that otherwise wouldn't be possible. And importantly is you need to have somebody like my son who will just sit your butt down and say, you got to do this. Otherwise, um, you'll miss the boat, or you'll not be able to take advantage of it in full capacity. Um, the interesting thing about my kids in general, right? The oldest one was always very um, into English literature, into writing, very articulate. And by sheer chance in life, she got sent to do a data science boot camp just because everybody in the company was being sent in at that time that she worked for. And that pivoted her into the world of AI very early on. So she's been building conversational AI for 6-7 years
Wow.
by now. So she was in a AI early stage uh, world for quite some time. And the middle one, of course, he's been technical for a long time and self-studying linear algebra and machine learning and building his, training his own models. So it's interesting to observe um, different pathways they both took to still tap into the power of AI. And then the youngest one, she's 19. She's studying computer science and minor in economics. So to me, at first, when she chose computer science, like, okay, it makes sense. We're all in a family from math and computer science background. We're all in technology space. But what will computer science be when we graduate? But the more I think we are experimenting with a lot of this technology, the more we see it evolve, the more important it is to actually have the depth and the theoretical underpinning of how computers work and how you can use science in an effective way and not rely on AI generated content for you to assume that you'll know how things work. Because even nowadays, right, if you think of that mechanical loom, right, we no longer have weavers, but we still appreciate crafts. We still appreciate people who are skilled to perform crafts. We have Etsy's and a whole industry of creators and craftspeople who still create beautiful things. So this type of transition to AI-enabled future will probably undergo similar type of um, skills transformation, where you still need to have experts with deep expertise in certain domains to know how things work, to be able to fix things and troubleshoot when things don't work, to be able to even build the next um, iteration of this technology. So I think it's an exciting time. I am not in a doomer camp. I'm more in a boomer camp. I think there's a lot to do. And the more you lean personally into it, and the more you talk to younger generation and kids who are skilled at it, the better you're going to be.
Stella, that is so beautifully put. I was thinking, for the women and the people in our community, She Runs on AI was born exactly for that reason. Let's just pretend that our members do not have a son who is going to tell them, sit down here, mom, and you're going to download this ChatGPT app and you're going to start working with this. Let's just pretend that you are going to be that to our community. So tell
Yes.
us number one hack that our women in our community can actually just start doing today to get closer to that AI boomer camp rather than the opposite.
Get your life organized. I think that could be one easy way to experience the power. So first of all, yes, download and create an account. And um, if you're financially constrained, start with free accounts. They're just as powerful. They're more powerful than the original ones, and you can have a certain amount of credit for you to experiment and learn.
Do you have a
There are
favorite one, Chat or Claude? What's your favorite?
It depends on the day, depends on the task. I give different things. I I compare them. Um, so ChatGPT to me is like Brad Pitt, right? It's
Mm.
I have never
talented
heard that.
and
All right, I'm
it
into
has
it.
its quirks, it has its character, and Claude is like Clooney, right? It's
Mm.
Oh,
More
refined, it's
classy.
sophisticated. So so
Got it.
don't make me choose, please.
Why choose? You have access to
yeah,
both,
you
right?
can have both. Exactly.
Um, so download one of them, whichever you know prefer to experience, and start asking its questions like, how do I do X, Y, and Z? Can you help me with troubleshooting this technical? Like next time you run into a technical issue, ask to troubleshoot. So, for example, I have, depending on the number of clients I have, I may have between 13, 14 accounts, email accounts, each with different calendars. So for me, orchestrating the availability, it's a big deal. So thanks to AI, I ask, how can I organize my calendar such that I know my availability, that I can expose it through my scheduling account? And the challenge was a lot of the existing Calendly and other solutions, they only integrate with one or two. And I have, Microsoft, Google, and Apple, and they all have their own quirks. thanks to AI, I was able to figure out that tidycal is the best solution that allows me to integrate with all three. And now I have a scheduling or scheduler that I can give to my customer or friends or whoever wants to get on my calendar. And I know exactly that it's not going to mess up my availability. Easy, right? But it saves me so much time. So think of where is your biggest time waste that you don't want to do and see how can you use AI to help you with that. It can automate a lot of grind work. So another example, for one of the customers, I have to produce certain updates to a group of people. So I set up the workflow to pull the data from a variety of reports, process it, and generate personalized spreadsheets for this group and every person in this group, and then drafts email in my email box that I can then go review, revise, and make sure it's all tidy up. And then I just click send. Otherwise, I would have spent a lot of time, maybe my Sunday, doing a lot of that prep work and review. And now it takes me half an hour to get everything done. So think again at where you spend the most time and which of that time you don't want to spend on that specific activity. And then ask how you can improve your productivity. That's simple to get started.
I love that. I made note already of tidy call. That's a very common problem, but as you said, right, it's as simple as having a conversation, to get you to the right solution for whatever challenge you're facing.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
one final question around boundaries. You're clearly curious, experimenting, trying different tools. How do you think about boundaries and like what are the things that you're saying, I'm not willing to cross this line? Can you share a bit more about that?
Um, boundaries, of course, it starts with the integrity of the client work, right? There is limitations on what you can and cannot do and what you um, use AI for, because there's confidentiality, of course, there is, integrity of your work, the quality of your work. So you really need to be very strict in how you organize your work and what you think it's acceptable to delegate to an AI versus not. So start with that. The other boundaries is paying attention to your own attention span and your own ability to get deep into certain domains, because it's really easy to just say, oh, I can just ask Claude or ChatGPT to do this for me, and then you yourself don't possess that knowledge anymore. You're surfing at the top of the topic, and you don't um, absorb the knowledge. You're not able to really connect to everything else that it's in your knowledge base to connect unexpected dots or come up with a new creative solution. So that's another thing to always monitor at your own personal level. Where do you go deep? And it really requires hard work and thinking and pen and paper versus which of the activities are okay to do. And then lastly is learning itself. Um, I am I'm worried about the next generation of workers coming into the workplace and the conflicting messages they're hearing. Right, on one side, you hear all these entry level jobs going away, employers expecting you to be AI fluent. Um, at the same time, they say do not use AI because you're token maxing and you're utilizing for the wrong reasons. So I think there is a lot of clarity that each one of us has a responsibility to bring to both the classroom or the workplace or whatever role we play to help that next generation of leaders be effective and learn the knowledge they need to learn. Because a lot of things on how work works is learned by observing, by shadowing, by mentoring. So we all need to play a role and not take shortcuts in that domain. That's very important.
I love that, Estella. And speaking of mentoring, where can people find you? You have such beautiful insights in the classroom, in the corporate world, at your own business, books. Where can people find your work and find a sounding board as they are exploring the world of AI?
I am at Stella with one L at Reframe.Work. You can email me. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me um, on Instagram. I have 4 personalities there too, expressing each of my creed. And yeah, don't hesitate to email, write. I have a website, Reframe.Work. I co-author newsletters with my um, partner in crime, Solange Shara. On a monthly basis, we write different newsletters and blog posts about the history of HR and how it's changing and how technology is influencing. So if you're interested in that space, sign up for our newsletters. So in short, omni-channel, open to any conversation, and looking forward to it. Any woman who needs help in embracing technology, I'm here for you.
Thank you so much, Acela. We will make sure that we share all of those accounts so people can reach you. Thank you so much for saying yes to this conversation. This is exactly the type of conversation that Leo and I love having. I'm very inspired by your journey. The your curiosity, your energy. For our audience, if you enjoyed this episode, if you thought it was useful, please share it with a woman in your network who you think needs to know about AI. So follow us on our YouTube channel, on LinkedIn, Instagram. Stella, thank you so much. Thank you, Leo.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.